Over the last couple of days, I think I have planted a little bit of a seed, and now I don't seem to be able to stop myself from thinking about this idea or this topic of finding our voice and trusting ourselves to project that voice out into the world. Yesterday, I was talking a little bit more specifically about public speaking. The day before, I was talking about video creation and being able to hit record and produce content in line with who we are. But the more I think about this, the more that I can see that it all circles back to the same thing. And it really is all about the confidence and the trust we have in ourselves to just be ourselves, not to try to be anything that we're not to try to emulate what everybody else is doing, but to simply be able to show up in the world as ourselves, as we are. So as I explore this topic a little bit further, more and more things are coming up. But today I want to take a moment to talk through three traits, three things that I used to value really highly as being part of who I am, that I can now start to see were actually getting in the way of me showing up authentically. And I would love to know your thoughts. So as we go through this episode today, if you resonate, reach out and start a conversation, because this is the type of thing that I am really now very much interested in exploring how I experienced these things in my past and exploring where you guys are at right now. I really do think this is something that so many of us have challenges with. And as I say, it'll be fantastic to start as many conversations as I can to try and get as much clarity as we can and hopefully be able to start addressing some of this stuff together. Now, if you've been following along, you will have heard me talk about some of the challenges that I have overcome in allowing myself to be able to show up and complete sales calls and create content and put myself out to the world in general. I've put some of my tips and strategies into a quick Google Doc. If this is something that you're struggling with, I've got a little 5-minute a day process that might just be exactly what you need to start pushing yourself out of the comfort zone a little bit and start making progress towards you becoming visible and finding your voice. If this sounds interesting, simply just reach out, let me know where to send it, and I'll shoot it straight through as a completely free gift to you. Hello, and welcome back to the From Zero to Marketing Hero podcast. My name's Paul Heron. I'm a life coach and entrepreneur. I've worked with dozens of clients over the years to build healthy habits and help them improve each and every day. Together, we've set up simple, dependable routines that help boost confidence both at home and at work. This podcast is my latest challenge at continuing this work for myself. Over the past 5 years, I predominantly outsourced my marketing, but I recently decided this is the year I'm going to take the time to figure this stuff out. So I decided I'm going to create, post, upload a podcast episode every single day to not only document my journey, but to give you guys a bit of an insight into all the highs and lows along the way. And this episode that we're going to talk about today, part of the reason I started this podcast and particularly why I made it daily was to combat these exact issues. So without any further ado, let's get into today's episode where I want to talk through the three main traits that held me back in the past, that I used to see as positive traits that helped me be a better person, that I can now see are some of the traits that really did hold me back and prevent that authentic self shining through. I'm just looking at my 3 points on my post-it note here, and they're all quite similar and they're all interrelated. So I am going to talk to them as 3 separate traits, but there are similarities and differences in some ways. So I guess I might start by outlining the 3 traits first. So the first is the need to be perfect, the need to do the best quality work that I can possibly produce each and every time. The second is a need or a desire to really think through everything that I was trying to get done. And this, again, is very closely relied for the need to be perfect, but it's more the resources that are being expended, particularly time in thinking through every single possible outcome before taking an action. That old analogy, I guess, comes in true here, that measure twice, cut once mentality. I do have a trade background, and that was drilled into me as a kid in trade school. And the third trait that's a little bit more directly related to finding our voice is to not stand out. Again, closely linked to overthinking. It was internalizing everything, but don't be the one that makes the fool of themselves by asking silly questions. sit quietly, blend in, be the chameleon, if you will. Now, each and every single one of these traits, I had convinced myself were working to my advantage. If I was producing perfect work, everyone was going to be happy. If I spent time overthinking and really ensuring that there were no surprises, trying to be absolutely certain before I took an action, then there'd be no surprises. And if I blended in, then nothing was going to catch me off guard. And I really did convince myself that this is the way to go to achieve success. Now, fast forward over the last 5 years, I have found myself in a completely different world altogether. These traits that I had developed and the habits that I had built around them were predominantly based on my time in the corporate world, where it's questionable, with the benefit of hindsight looking back, I still think I could drop some of the stuff that was preventing my true self shining through. And I think I would have had a better experience, but I did convince myself at the time that that's what I needed to be. The trouble I had when I started my own business is that as a business owner, we have no choice. If we're choosing to go into business, we are by default choosing to put signs up all over the place saying, this is me, this is what I do, this is how I help. And we need to be able to be okay with taking action and dealing with whatever results actually come from those actions. And that was scary as hell. At the time, when I first started my business, I didn't know how to deal with these things. And I think in hindsight, that's partially because I did put so much value in these traits. So what have I learned over the last 5 years about these 3 traits? Well, I remember doing my very first coaching training course. It was a fantastic course. And one of the quotes that just hit home, I just needed to hear it in that moment, was the Tony Robbins quote, "Done is better than perfect." And to this day, it remains a mantra of sorts that I base a lot of my decisions around. The trouble with trying to become perfect at something before we've even attempted to take action on the first iteration of that thing is that it is just not possible. We think we can achieve perfection, but we just don't have the skills to be able to produce a level 10 effort or a level 10 piece of work when we are at level 1. I like the analogy of the school grade system. A first class student or a first year student can only ever produce first year work. As we go through the years, we learn by taking action, we learn by doing, we learn by failing, we learn by our mistakes. We eventually get up second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth class. By the time we are in sixth class, we are capable of doing sixth class work only through going through that process. And I think this is a powerful thing to hold on to, because wherever we find ourselves, if I use marketing for an example, because that's what I'm going through at the moment, in many ways, I am very much still in first class. I can't be even trying to conceive the perfect marketing plan, strategy, the perfect copy for my ads. There is no way known I can get to that point right now without taking action. So this whole journey for me is about taking imperfect action, about just spending the appropriate amount of time and energy, deciding what that next step is going to be, and taking the action and learning from the experience. So for me now, if I catch myself overthinking anything for any period of time, I need to nip that in the bud and decide what's the action I am going to take, or what's the action I need to take next. What's the thing that is going to actually take me a step closer to my goal? Now, I mentioned overthinking, and this need to be perfect. It does tie into this, but the overthinking, the takeaway that I have learned, and again, it's something that has really helped in terms of how all these things sort of fit together, is that we do not have a crystal ball. There is absolutely no way that we can predict the future. It's not possible. We can't time travel. We can't take ourselves into the future and have a sneak peek at what's going to happen. Whether that's on a daily basis, a decade-long basis, whatever it is, we just cannot predict what's going to happen as a result of an action that we take. But that's actually what we're doing when we spend time overthinking. We're trying to find an element of certainty before we take an action. And I think this is why we have this tendency to try and be perfect. I think this is what leads to most procrastination And I think it is just something we need to come to terms with. All we can control is us, is the things that we do, the things that we think, the things that we say. We can only control our inputs. So we need to, again, back to this idea of the appropriate amount of time, energy into doing our preparation. We need to make a decision about what it is that we're going to apply ourselves to next. And then we need to focus on us. We need to focus on our ability to be able to perform those actions and not worry about the results. After we've gone through the process of doing the thing, then we can get curious about the results and learn our lessons and double down on the things that do work and drop the things that aren't working. But there is just simply no way we can be certain. And this is particularly true when we're pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone and doing new things that we have never done before. There is going to be more failures than there are successes. That's just the nature of entrepreneurship and running our own business. And I think in many ways, this overthinking, needing to be perfect, it's very closely related to fear of failure and fear of looking bad, looking silly, which I guess leads me into the third point, which is that idea that if we don't stand out, then we can't be hurt. And, this one is huge because ultimately that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about finding our unique voice and becoming comfortable with ourselves and our ability to be able to project that voice out into the world, whether that be in a classroom situation, whether it's in a boardroom meeting, whether it's talking to our colleagues in social situations, creating content for our businesses, whatever it might be. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about how we can show up, be comfortable being ourselves in any situation without that fear of what people are going to think and say. And the key message or the key lesson that hit home for me is that particularly from a marketing point of view, and I think this applies everywhere, by the way, but particularly from a business marketing point of view, the more specific we get, the more we narrow down on our message and talk to a specific challenge, a specific problem, the more we be ourselves with that message, the more emotion we bring, the more we use our own language, the more polarizing that message is going to be. And I think this is a key takeaway that so many of us need to remember and understand. I think for many of us, when we have this fear of looking bad and fear of failure, we are actually trying to please everybody. And that's actually not our job at all. We don't want to be trying to please everybody. To try and please everyone requires a very bland, plain message that most people might think is okay, but that's not our goal. Whether that's in our business or our personal lives or wherever we find ourselves, we want more than that. We want to build deep connections with people, and we want to be able to really talk to the person that the message is aimed at. And the only way we can do that is by being polarizing. And the thing is, yes, some people will not resonate with our message. And in a business setting, they can just not follow us. They can unsubscribe. They can do whatever they feel like is the best option for them. Because if they don't resonate with our message, ultimately that's their problem and not ours. But here's the thing. The people who do resonate with our message are going to resonate in such a more powerful way than any plain old boring message that we might be putting out. And I think this is where the true power of understanding what it means to be projecting our voice means. Now, as I've said, these are three issues that I have a lot of experience overcoming and coming through. In some ways, it's difficult for me to take myself back in time and remember the specific challenges that previous version of me was going through. What I am able to do now is look back and almost have this feeling that I'm on the other side of this huge canyon of sorts. It's an amazing feeling to know that I was on the other side with absolutely no idea about how I might confront some of this stuff, and that I've been able to put in that hard work and put in the reps and get out the other side and to be confident projecting my voice out to the world. One of the reasons that this is so on my mind at the moment is just the idea that if I've been able to bring myself on this journey and overcome some of these challenges, if I am aware that there are so many others out there that are experiencing similar challenges in their own journey, then maybe this is the thing that I should be marketing my efforts at. And it's for this reason that I would just love to start having conversations with anyone who is experiencing this struggle. I have put together a simple 5-step process. I think it's 5 steps. It may change, but a simple process that outlines what you can do to get started. And it's very much based on what I did to overcome my own challenges. But I would be very open to having some brief conversations and designing specific solutions for you. So just reach out, let me know what challenges you're going through, and I will do my best to try and provide a little bit of a guidance, a little bit of a personalized document for you to allow you to start making those or start taking those first few steps forward. The best place to reach me is to head over to my website, paulheronlifecoaching.com. It's Heron with one R, Heron. There's a couple of different ways you can reach out there, but just reach out. Let me know what you're going through, and I will get back as quickly as I can with a tailored solution to your challenge. If you are enjoying this podcast, it'd be fantastic if you could take a moment to hit the subscribe button. It really does go a long way in helping to share the show with a wider audience. And until tomorrow, have a fantastic day. Bye for now.